Hello everyone, welcome to Bald Guy Money, and I know that many of you are concerned about some of the weakness we've seen in gold and silver prices over the last 2 weeks, and some of you even think the de-escalation between the United States and Iran, which is a very good thing by the way, may signal the end of the gold and silver bull market. But I want to double down on what I said last week when I presented the Russia-Ukraine war gold price data, in that it's not war that drives metals up long term. It's the falling value of paper currency, and war only acts as a catalyst sometimes to cause a move up that was going to happen anyway. So as we start this video off, I want to say as we enter the month of July that I fully stand by my May 4th video in which I said you have 2 to 4 months to prepare for the next move up for precious metals. And although we may still see a little more sideways price action from here, we are entering a period where gold price has historically started to recover, and getting ahead of the next move, not by going all in of course, but by remaining on a purchase schedule, is still the best approach in my opinion. Because as the US dollar continues to fall in strength, and I've added a US dollar to euro conversion rate from the start of this year till today in the image on the screen here, just to make it a bit clear for you all about why it is I say the enormous rises we've seen for both gold and silver over the past couple years in other currencies versus the 2011 blow-off top levels will become a US dollar reality, as both metals are already starting to move up faster in US dollar terms relative to other currencies as central banks and non-US investors recalibrate their holdings to reflect their expectations of a weaker dollar, suggesting even larger inflows to metals are still on the way as the dollar decline continues and this migration continues to steadily play out into precious metals. Now that's just a short update from my side, building on what we talked about last week, but that story is going to have to take a backseat this week to silver, which, if it closes above $35 an ounce on Monday, June 30th, so the day after this video premieres, it will confirm silver's breakout and deliver the highest monthly close for silver since August 2011, which is a great reminder for anyone who has been nervous about choppy metals prices that the best is still yet to come for both gold and silver. So in anticipation of that possible confirmation of silver's massive breakout, I want to provide you all with an update in this video of how much silver I think you need to be in the top 20%, 5%, and 1% of silver owners. I am going to compare my numbers versus those from Grok AI, and we're going to finish the discussion by covering what holding that much silver actually means in the greater scheme of things, especially for people planning for retirement. And we will be looking at some hypothetical price levels within those retirement scenarios, so be sure to watch for that to the very end of this video. Now, just before we dive in, please remember to check out summitmetals.com if you want to buy gold and silver at a great price from a dealer you can trust, including 5 ounces of silver at spot when you use code NEWCUSTOMER at checkout. Link to this deal is in the video description below. Okay, so diving in, what does it take to be a top silver stacker, and what does that even mean for someone over the long term? Well, before we get to the numbers, as this is regularly a controversial topic here on the channel, I just want to put a couple of things into perspective for everyone watching. Starting with how rare silver actually is, because it's a lot rarer than its current price of $36 per ounce would suggest, with only about 25 billion ounces of the 45 billion that have been mined throughout history still available to us today according to the Royal Mint when you factor in usage and corrosion. Meaning there are only about 3 ounces of silver per person in the world today, and I know it sounds unbelievable, but according to experts, that is how little silver there really is. And when we combine that stat with the fact that 59% of Americans cannot cover a $1,000 emergency, meaning they don't have that much in available savings, and most people around the world don't even make $1,000 per month, I just want to say that I'd appreciate everyone remaining humble and grounded in the comments section as I reveal the numbers, because 1,000 US dollars can only get you 28 ounces of silver today at spot price. And since most people around the world don't even have that much cash readily available to them or even earn that much in the course of a month's work, it doesn't take as much silver as you may think to be a top stacker. So with that little preamble out of the way, when we look at my estimates of how many people own silver bullion in 2025, and remember, this number includes people who have a coin or two. I'm not calling them stackers, I am merely calling them owners. We see nearly 300 million people worldwide own some type of silver bullion, according to my numbers, which is about 3.6% of the total world population today. And my estimate is that there are about 3.2 to 4.2 billion ounces of physical silver bullion held privately amongst these people, not including institutional holdings or ETF holdings. Now, without dragging it out and explaining my methodology as I have in past videos, which if you're interested in, by the way, I will link up below so you can go through it in detail, my estimated ranges for top silver holders remain very close to what they were in 2023, with some slight differences, meaning if you have from 45 to 60 ounces of silver, which is right around $2,000 worth at the time of making this video, that puts you in the top 20% of silver owners worldwide. And to reach the top 5%, you need to have between 150 ounces to 195 ounces of silver, which is about $5,500 to $7,000 worth of silver, according again to spot price today. And to really separate yourself from the other silver bullion owners in the world, and I have no doubt, by the way, that many of my viewers will find themselves in this category, you need about 490 ounces to 640 ounces of silver, which is right around $20,000 worth, again at spot price today. Now, although I think those numbers make perfect sense, I thought it was only fair to compare my numbers to the numbers generated by an AI model, and I chose Grok, which is the X platform's AI model, to measure my work against. And as you can see here, when it comes to base assumptions, Grok and I differed on how many people own silver, with Grok's number of 500 million being much higher than my number. Grok also assumed that there was less physical bullion owned privately than I did, and yes, I asked it to exclude institutional and ETF holdings, just so our calculations were a one-to-one comparison. And what it came up with, and you can see the numbers here now compared to my numbers, which I've left in the small text just underneath Grok's numbers, is that the Grok AI model says you need 100 to 200 ounces to be in the top 20% of silver owners worldwide, 500 to 600 ounces of silver to be in the top 5% of owners worldwide, and 2,000 to 2,500 ounces of silver to find yourself in the top 1% of silver owners. And I think the difference between my numbers and Grok's numbers are driven by the input of the AI mainly being from wealthier countries. And the reason I say that is because Grok's numbers align perfectly with numbers I shared in 2022 when I presented what it takes to be a top 1% silver owner in the United States. So before we move on to discuss what all of this means, let me just say that I think my numbers are a good indication of where you stand on a worldwide basis. And if you're a viewer in a developed country and you want to measure yourself against other stackers like you, excluding people in the developing world, I think Grok's numbers are a great indicator of that, as they line up quite well with my own numbers. Now, just before we dig into what having that much silver means, especially if you're preparing for retirement, please remember that if you want to diversify your hard asset portfolio into land, visit channel partner landofland.com. Their offer includes properties big and small, just like this 120-acre plot of land for just shy of $60,000 in Nevada, which is known as the Silver State, and I have to say that's a pretty big piece of land. But if you want to know more about this piece of land or anything else they have, check out landofland.com or call them at the number on the screen and get something that can't be printed by the Federal Reserve before the Federal Reserve starts printing. Okay, so moving on to this week's viewer question, and it comes from Eli, who has been faithfully watching my videos for a long time now. Hello, Eli, and thank you for always leaving me comments and likes below. It is very much appreciated. And I wanted to tie Eli's request for a discussion on using metals in retirement with the topic of being a top silver stacker to kind of add some context for all of you who are either top silver stackers today or have the ambition to become a top silver stacker. I wanted to kind of add some context as to what that means, especially if you're planning on using your silver to supplement your retirement. And since Eli says he has a 401k, I also want in this answer to integrate that into the message. So as we get into this, I want to start by saying it's one thing to know where you stand versus other silver owners or stackers, whatever term it is you want to use. But it's another thing to understand what that means in the greater scheme of things. And what you see here is the median 401k balance for an American split by age group. Now, for this exercise, I assumed to be in the top 1% of silver owners, you need a flat 500 ounces of silver, which, a lot of people will say that's one monster box. And I multiplied that by spot price to determine the value of that stack, those 500 ounces of silver, versus these median 401k balances. And as you can see, if you've reached that 1% level before the age of 35, that means the value of your silver stack is higher than your peers' median 401k balance as things stand today, which is pretty good. Now, where this data gets a little sad is the value of 500 ounces of silver is roughly 20% of a median 401k balance of someone 65 or older, which on one hand confirms that for a regular person, 500 ounces of silver is something significant. But on the other hand, also confirms that Americans and really people around the world in general aren't saving enough for retirement, as a 401k is often the only thing somebody in the United States will have to supplement Social Security benefits in retirement. Now, moving on to the next part of the discussion, if we take my $60 per ounce target for silver in 2026 and apply it to these numbers, you'll see that although you get a significant jump in what that represents versus 401k holdings, when we add the value of the median 401k to the value of this 500 ounce stack of silver at $60 an ounce. So when we add those two numbers together, you can see the total, even when you factor in a $2,000 Social Security payment every month, which is factored into these numbers, is not enough to supplement the cost of a basic bare bones retirement in the United States. With people 65 and older, when you add their median 401k balance to the value of that 500 ounces of silver, again measured at $60 per ounce, only gives them $118,500 versus a total need of $250,000, which gives you basically 47% of coverage for your retirement. So as I switch over to numbers that factor in $100 per ounce silver, the message I want to share in this video is building on Eli's request to talk more about retirement is, yes, it's cool to be in the top 1% or even 5% or 20% of silver stackers. It's awesome, and I encourage everyone watching this video to set targets within that ownership pyramid and move towards achieving them. But you should not get caught up in the crazy narratives telling you that 100 ounces or 200 ounces or even 500 ounces of silver are going to be enough to change your life forever or even retire on. Because although silver is going up and is going to move up even quicker over the next couple years, and I've shared my expectations on that topic with you all, as I expect currency devaluation around the world to accelerate over the next 5 years. But despite that, I'm not making these videos to sell you a fairy tale. And that's why I want to point out that even at the 1980 inflation adjusted high of approximately $200 per ounce silver, if you added the value of a 500 ounce stack to the value of a median 401k, there is not one age group on this list that would be able to fund a basic retirement, with people 65 and older, again, even at $200 an ounce silver, only being able to fund about 75% of the expenses they'll need to supplement on top of Social Security in retirement. And taking that out even one step further, even if we reached the 12-to-1 gold to silver ratio that the ancient Romans used, bringing the price of silver measured in current US dollars to $273 per ounce, even then you come up just short of funding a basic no-frills retirement. Now, that doesn't mean give up on silver. In fact, I am trying to say the exact opposite here, and maybe I'm not doing a very good job of it, but that is what I'm trying to do. But what it is I am trying to say is everyone watching this video needs to get serious about saving and realistic about price targets and what they're going to need to cover their expenses in retirement. So instead of entering the top 1% of silver stackers, which, by the way, is a fantastic thing to have achieved if you've already achieved it, and it's a fantastic goal to set if you have not achieved it yet. But instead of just entering that group and thinking that's all you need to do, what you really need to do is you need to cut out bad spending. You need to stop the buy now, pay later nonsense. And this is a special message, especially to the younger people watching this video right now. And you need to make sure you are investing regularly, not only buying physical silver. Physical silver should be a part of it. It should not be the only thing. But you should also be maxing out your 401k if you have one, putting some money aside into companies that produce things and pay dividends if that's what you feel comfortable doing, or if you're like me, buying physical real estate and setting up businesses around that. And of course, on top of it all, making sure that gold is also a part of your savings portfolio. Because as bullish as I am on silver and silver miners, preparing yourself financially is a 30 to 40 year journey for most people. And buying 1 ounce of silver every month during that journey may be a great way to start, but it's not enough. And to anyone who wants to see me dig into the retirement numbers using gold and silver once again, using updated numbers reflecting updated Social Security and pension payment pension payment numbers from the United States and from other countries around the world, please let me know in the comments section now, and I will do that in a future video. So with that said, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to leave a like below. That helps this content reach more people that need to hear this message. And if you have any questions for me, please remember that I answer one viewer question in every video I do. You can leave your question in the comments section below. I read all the comments, and your question just may appear in my next video. So, as I say at the end of all of my videos, please remember to take care of yourselves and take care of each other. See you in the next video. Goodbye.